The following content is intended for mature audiences only. Depression is the leading cause of disability in the United States among people ages 15 to 44. 264 million people worldwide live with depression. Though it is highly treatable, 39% of adults with major depressive episodes never receive treatment. If you are watching and you're dealing with depression, or know someone else who is, please stay and listen to our conversation and know that you are not alone. Father Frank and I will discuss symptoms, available treatments, and management of depression, and where you can go for some help. Father Frank deals with depression every day. So now, let's welcome Father Frank to Friar Time. Frank, can we begin by asking you to share what would actually be your personal journey when you first realized that you were, experiencing this depression?
Well, part of it is depression and high anxiety together. So that was part of it. And I say a few years now. I didn't realize it, and that kind of really impacted when my brother and my sister died, and also moving away from ministry, that ministry set that we had. So and saying goodbye to people in the midst of the pandemic and stuff. I think that was a big part of it for me, and it only got progressively worse. And things that for me that I didn't realize how bad it was, and the things I lost all joy in my life, and I couldn't connect with anybody, basically isolate myself, and no sleep.
Yeah.
I had all the symptoms, but I didn't realize it, and only when I started going to counseling, it sort of helped, and then basically through counseling, it kind of opened up the whole. It was like an earthquake, It just happened, and then I just had to go away. So.
Would you say that you thought that the death of your brother and sister was when it began, or did you think you were depressed before
was
that?
before that.
So it was before that.
Yeah.
That kind of exasperated.
Yeah.
Exasperated. it. So that's when the personal journey began. Was before that.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any idea what that
No, I
was?
think I was in ministry site by myself, and I think that was part of it. So I think the loneliness of that part was part of it, and I felt very much isolated. I think that was part of it. So, and I think that was the onset, and it wasn't as pronounced as it was.
Have you felt depression other times in your life before that?
Oh yeah. I felt. So, I mean, especially through the counseling and some of that stuff, the different episodes in my life, but not as intense as the one I had at the last ministry site. So
yeah. Now, we know depression can manifest itself differently for everyone. We all know that. What would you say are some of the key symptoms and emotions that you experienced during your struggle? And how did that impact your daily life? It impacts every aspect of our life.
A part of it, like, especially the insomnia, which is that was the worst. And maybe 2 and 3 hours sleep a night, if that, and that's ongoing, if sleep at all. And what happens is that in the afternoon, I used to fall asleep in my office, or, just totally out of it. And it made me really irritable and stuff like that, because I couldn't really focus. And the thing I wanted to do so much, and I couldn't do anything, that kind of thing. Like, my anxiety level was high, so because I want to do all this stuff, but the depression was basically saying, you can't do anything, and there was a whole thing about feeling no self-worth whatsoever,
Tell me a little more about that.
I think part of it is like I didn't feel like I was worth anything, It was one of those things, and you can't get out of it. Like, you try to talk yourself out of it and stuff like that. And even it was kind of like Monday to Friday was tough. The weekends weren't as bad because it was around people and stuff like that. So I was busier, so it was kind of occupied my time, But the other times it was like, it was just debilitating. It was just like in the point of I couldn't look at anything. Like, even doing a homily, I couldn't do that because I felt it wasn't worth it.
So it was really rock bottom.
Oh yeah, totally rock bottom.
Maybe some of you have felt the same thing, that rock bottom.
Yeah, so
But in terms of the insomnia, what was there something going through your mind, or was it just? I understand we all have experienced where we can't sleep, but this is different.
yeah, there's a lot of guilt. I mean, thinking that your mind is racing all the time, so you're kind of racing over the whole day or the whole week, and you're saying, well, I could have done this way, this way. Nothing was right.
Nothing felt right for you.
Nothing felt right. Like everything I did was something wrong with it.
You may have felt the same way during these types of depression.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't know. I mean, part of it is. I mean, part of it for me was hiding everything, and that was the big thing.
And that's exhausting.
Yeah, that was tiring. And because you had like before I used to leave my bedroom, I used to just take my 15, 20 minutes just to build myself up. You know, to say, okay, I got to do this. You got to go out and face it, and you only do it for so long, and you got to go back and just you're so tired by the whole, you know. But it's just wearing masks all over the place, you know. So
If I had to ask you another question, in terms of the intense emotion that you felt during depression, I think you've described some of that, and I'm sure for those of you who are watching, the intense emotion you feel during the depression affects aspects of your life all around, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, for me, it's like I totally isolated myself from everybody and stuff like that. So, and I didn't want to be around anybody, you know. And we talked about that too. And I used to isolate myself. So, I have a good team with me who basically pushes me out in the open. So, which is good. But it's just it's one of those you just can't connect with anybody. Like I'm at the point I don't want to go anywhere. You know, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't even make a decision about where I needed to be. So that was the thing. So it just takes over your life. You want to do everything, you can't do nothing. It's tough, and it's still there. You know, they say it takes a couple of years for it to run its course, but it's very much still there. You know, so and there are days that I feel it. You know, and I know that I gotta work through that whole thing. You know, somehow.
There's a hopelessness about it.
Oh yeah.
And it seems like for those of you who have suffered depression also, at the same time you need people, you're pushing them
Push
away.
away. Yeah.
And so that makes it even more hopeless
Yeah.
in a sense, don't you think?
Yeah, it is because you don't want to be there. You don't want to talk about anything, and things that you definitely need someone more than anything. I remember when my brother and sister died. That was a big issue. It was mid pandemic, and all you want to do was
Yeah.
someone to hug you, you know, and nobody could. You know, that was the thing. So that isolated me even more and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Thank God I had my dog, so he was, you know,
Yeah.
that was a good thing. But the thing is that part of it is like you want to do it, and you want to go out and even go out to help somebody with just the energy level. It's peaked in about 20 minutes, and then you got to stop it and just go back again. So when I got to the point where basically I couldn't do it anymore, you know, I couldn't. I tried, but I just couldn't.
Tell me what that means. I couldn't do it anymore.
I just couldn't. I got that Friday I called you and stuff like that. That was a big part of it. So it was just a build up, and I knew it was building up and building up and building up, and I knew it was going to come to crashing down soon. So I just felt it, like I knew. And I was on the phone that day with my spiritual director and stuff like that, and I broke down and just said, I just can't do this anymore. So, you know, and there was suicidal stuff there too. You know, that was part of it, and you know, I was very honest about that too. So that's because that's all part of it. You know, so and so knowing I was that close, that's when I phoned you and said, I guess I have to do something. You know, I need to do something. So, and at that time I just didn't. I cried for 3 weeks straight. So, you know, once everything was let out. You know, so it was.
Frank called me, I believe it was the Friday of Palm Sunday weekend.
Yeah.
And as he said, he was really desperate in many ways. He was in a parish in New Jersey, and he needed to get away from the parish, away from the whole situation, and begin to do some treatment, some serious treatment. And so, could you tell us about how that worked out, Frank? What
That
happened?
was very good. And then I went to the Canadian Center.
I think so.
Yeah, I went to a John Vianney Center in Pennsylvania. They were very, very good, and it was a closed environment, which is good for me. And I went for a 2-week assessment, and I had a major depressive disorder plus high anxiety, so it was both. And trying to work through that, it was tough. I was in the hospital the first night I was here, with my blood pressure went sky high, so that was part of it. And then just monitoring myself for the next 4 months, really, and plus with the psychiatrists, the psychologists, and nutritionists, everybody there. There was such a great team, and it was really good focus, and the big thing for me was the medication. I didn't want to take any, and there was a fight with me. And I said, because once you get that, the stigma is there, and that's part of it. But one of the blessings I had is that the ministry site I was at, they sent hundreds and hundreds of cards.
Yeah.
So that really helped a lot. And,
There was a lot of
oh
support.
God, it was so much support from the friars, from the community and stuff like that, and it just blew me away. And that part of it is, which I felt good about, is that they told their own stories. Every one of them had a story to tell about someone in their family or their own experience of depression or anxiety and stuff like that, and how it affected their lives.
Uh-huh.
So it was really neat, because a lot of times you see these people on the weekends, and you don't know their story, and all of a sudden I knew everyone's story.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that was really that was wonderful. So that was a positive thing with the whole thing. And the thing for me is, like, I felt bad leaving the place, but I think they understood why.
Mhm.
So that was.
You wrote a letter to them, I
I
believe.
wrote a letter to them at the 2 letters, actually, to tell them what I was doing, and what was happening with my depression and stuff like that, and where I was, and I was very honest with it and stuff like that. That this was happening, and I needed to get that out there, because I think they needed to know. I was their pastor, so I said,
Yeah.
this is I think this is a leadership role. Whatever we do with depression or whatever it is, you have to, you know, give people some kind of hope in the midst of all their struggle. And it's funny because it happened Holy Week, so it's like you kind of had. I always said I had my way of the cross, so Holy Week is different, has a different meaning for me now. So so yeah.
This may pertain to some of you too who are watching, as well as Frank. This next question, basically, if you yourself suffer from depression, or know somebody in your family or in your circle of friends or colleagues who suffer from depression, sometimes that can cause a significant rift in any of these relationships. Did that happen to you?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, for me, it's like even in the house, like I felt I didn't want to be in the house, so that basically I felt myself in my office a lot. That part of it.
Yeah.
And not being able to explain or express anything, like in the things that even with the staff and stuff like that, I was getting really irritable because I was not being myself, and that was a big issue and stuff like that. So there was a rift there with that part of it, and so it's even with the family stuff, like I didn't tell anyone in my family till about 2 weeks after,
Mhm.
and it's funny because they had a different take on it altogether. So it's there's a lot of history there and stuff like that. So just having to deal with that and stuff. So
Did you find any relationships that ended because of this depression?
yeah, some did. Yeah,
How did you feel with that?
actually, not too bad. Actually,
Really?
yeah, I think that I think the people in your life are the most important when are the people that basically stand with you at your darkest times, and stuff like that. And the people who stood by me they're my best friends and part of my family. So it's like yourself, like every week, once a week at least, or twice a week. And so it was, people visited and stuff like that. But the big thing is it's just support, just texting. That's all it was. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. So just getting texts and stuff, or even getting emails from people was big, so it helped out a lot.
Anybody who has been through depression knows that depression comes with very intrusive negative thoughts. I think you referred to that earlier. What are some of the darkest thoughts you had? Can you share them with us?
My life is worth nothing. That was the worst one. I think that was for a while. That lasted and stuff like that. And just like, I just couldn't do anything. Like everything I even look back at the past and stuff like that, and everything I experienced was negative. Like I couldn't find a positive thing whatsoever in anything.
Really?
Yeah, there was no joy. I tried to be happy, and you can't. That's really straight. And the things that why can't I be happy? Like I keep sounding like the counselors. I just need to get joy in my life, and I can't get it. I can't get it. I can't get it. And not like the things like music and like I love cooking. I think that's my best. That's the thing that kind of focuses me. And
Fantastic chef.
yeah, all right, but yeah, but things that part, but it really helps me because it's the beginning and an end and stuff like that, and I enjoy doing it and stuff like that. And it makes me be creative, in that part of it. So that's my joy right now. But other things are happening, and I guess like you always say, I'm helpless but not hopeless. I think that's the thing right now. So
Yeah.
and I do feel helpless sometimes, and but I also got to reach out for support too, and tell people what I'm going through, and that's part of the process, just being honest.
When you say, my life meant nothing,
Mm.
there was nothing worthwhile in my
Yeah.
life, what did that feel like to you?
Just a whole dark hole, I don't. It's one of those things like that's when I couldn't sleep at all, and I said, well, why do I bother, with life,
Uh,
you get that point to say, why do you have to go through this,
hmm
it's not worth it. It really
Yeah.
isn't worth it at all. And that's when I hit the rock. That's when I knew that something had to happen, or something's going to happen to me. So, it was that one or the other.
Yeah.
Like you're on the edge of a cliff, and you're ready to kind of jump, but you don't know where you're jumping.
hmm
That's where that.
Well,
So, uh,
in all of this, okay, we're sitting here talking about depression. We have these brown habits on, these robes, okay? We're followers of St. Francis, religious as they're called, etc. Um, so someone would say, well, you're men of faith.
mm,
So in all of this, where was God?
mm,
Was God there?
no,
God was not there.
no, not there at all. I didn't believe in anything. The only thing got me through a lot of times is I kept going back to Francis in prison.
hmm
That was a big thing. So, and I think that he was depressed there. I mean, who wouldn't
hmm
be, that kind of thing. But, but I look at his own life and stuff like that. And I'm sure there were depressive episodes with him too, and with everything, especially his illness and the stuff. So I focused more on that, try to get me through than anything else. But the whole thing with God was I was totally angry, just total anger. And I said, there's no God in this whole thing, So it's just like, and why do you even exist,
hmm
So it was like, but again, he couldn't find, like, he used to love nature and all that, couldn't find nothing good, find nothing good at all. So,
Difficult.
yeah, it is, I think I always looked at myself as a bit positive, a bit more positive than I was, but I got to the point where nothing was good, nothing was good, And you try to
So,
fight that every day,
uh-huh.
and the thing is that it gets overwhelming, So
And so now,
getting there. We have two of us run a good relationship,
you and God?
Yeah, he's kind of, he's there, or she's there, and we're kind of working it out. So it's not perfect by no means, but it's at least it's a start. I got a really good spiritual director, so that really helps me a lot. So,
Uh-huh.
and he knows where I am and stuff like that. And he was one of the first ones I told about all this stuff. And part of it is that it's not the best relationship in the world, but it's something there. You know. I
Yeah.
think that it's funny because I say mass and do all the stuff like everything else, and I'm sure people say, "Oh, what's wrong with him? He doesn't believe." I say I do believe, but the thing is that part of it is I believe in the rituals and stuff like that that we have, and I think community is important and all this other stuff, and I just got to find my place in that with the experience of God in that,
hmm
and that takes time. It
Yeah.
really does. There's things that for me is that like when you don't have a relationship with God for 2 or 3 years and all of a sudden you're trying to rebuild that trust again. I think that's
hmm
part of it too.
Yeah.
So so it's getting there. And,
Good.
yeah.
There's the Dark Night of the Soul,
Oh yeah.
John of the Cross.
Yeah.
He talks about how God, we're like a little child with God,
Mm.
and when a child is born, the mother holds the child very close, but then she puts the child away, and the child comes back to her, uh, and then she puts the child further away. Then the child crawls to her, and then the child walks to her. Then it's finally an adult coming back to her, and every time the child comes back, they come back differently. They come back, they have experienced something different, and they come back different, more mature in a adult relationship. And I think sometimes what you're saying actually is that this dark night of the soul, which is what St. John of the Cross spoke about, is this time when God feels like God's not there.
Yeah.
It's this desert time. It's this time when we feel we're away from God and we have to make our way back. And I think sometimes people who have to go through this kind of suffering that you're talking about, when they make their way back to God, that's really a deep relationship with God. And I think oftentimes if the relationship with God is just kind of matter of fact, that might not have the depth of a relationship that someone like Frank or anybody who goes through depression and sees God in that depression might find a really beautiful relationship. It's a struggle, like you said.
It is, and the thing is that for me is that the quote that it was Holy Week and stuff like that when all this happened, and the thing is that like it was Good Friday, like my God, why have you abandoned me? So that was my mantra, for months and stuff like that.
So that scripture really came alive.
Yeah, for me it was, and the thing is that like I couldn't, like I remember Good Friday service at the center, I had to leave like halfway through, I just couldn't stay, so but yeah.
Frank, there's so many people who go through depression in our country, in the world, and it's a lifelong challenge, obviously. So can you help all of us understand what are some of the practical things we can do to help each other, people who are undergoing depression and people who are not undergoing depression, some practical ways to assist each other in this?
I think part of it is the stigma, for one thing. I mean, there is certain stigma attached to depression because it's like one of those things, like if you have a broken arm or a broken leg, it's fine, you can see it. But depression, you're kind of hiding it, in many ways. So I think part of it is just being open and supportive and being a presence. Like things that sitting down and people tell me, like, oh, well, this is how I handle it. I don't want to hear how you handle it. I just want you to listen to me. That's all. Just hear what I have to say and stuff like that. And I think that's part of the process, is listening and giving someone an ear. I think that's really important. And also seeing the signs, also, because the things that you hide it. So once you see the signs, like the isolation and the whole thing about your irritability, your insomnia, all this other stuff, but then talk to a doctor. And medication is good, even though I'm still struggling with that part of it, but still, it does help. And so, but getting help is fundamental, in many ways. But if you're going through it yourself, or if you have a family member going through it, just support them through it, and there's so many things out there that we can use and utilize to make us feel so much better, and get back to whatever normal may be. This normal is not. There's no such thing as normal, I don't think, but but something a better life. And basically, like being more positive about your life and stuff like that. Because even with the pandemic, I mean, it's heightened. And they said like 25% of women go through depression at least once in their life, and 15% of men go through it, at some time. So it's debilitating and stuff like that, and it's an illness, and treat it as that. That's the thing. You got to treat it as an illness, and it can get better. So that's where I am now. So I say every day, I say, you're going to get better. You're going to get better. So I'm starting to believe myself and
Good.
the people around me. So
Good.
yeah,
And I think you will get better.
I will. You're here. So
thank you, Frank, for sharing that story with us. I hope that story that Frank has told will touch your hearts, whether you suffer from depression or whether you know someone who does. If you're someone who is feeling depression, there's going to be a number on the screen that you'll be able to contact if you have no other way of being assisted. And if you know someone who's depressed and you hear Frank's story, listen to them. All they want is for you to listen to them and not try to cure them. So thank you, Frank, for sharing that story with us. Thank you for watching Friar Time. See you soon. If you or someone you know is seeking help for mental health concerns, visit the National Alliance on Mental Health website at www.nami.org or call 800-950-6264. For confidential treatment referrals, visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website at findtreatment.gov or call the National Helpline at 800-662-4357. In an emergency, contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255 or call 911.